Three, two, one, recording. Tshiamo, welcome back. How you doing?
Amazing King, how are you, bud?
Yeah, I can't complain. I can't complain. How's everything going in the world of media and marketing?
Let me say this. I think overall, it's been a very trying time in terms of what to do in a time and place where you don't get the liberty of going over the top in terms of your executions. So what I've been seeing happening quite a lot is the complacency of our advertising agencies has come to really kind of rear its lazy head, in the sense that we're now getting to see the power of influence, especially not just influencers, content creators, and the opportunity that they can now exploit for themselves. I mean, consider the following. A number of brands are no longer coming up with new ideas, but rather they're turning to content creators such as your Tyson Guberi, such as your Pharaoh, Farida. They're looking at social media to find ideas for their campaigns, which in my opinion is a bit lazy, but hey, that's what's been happening in the world of advertising, is that the lockdown has really exposed how when confined to four walls and working in isolation from each other, some of us tend to be quite lazy in our doing. So that's just, in my opinion, what's been happening in the world of marketing and advertising. On your side, what's been happening in the world of digital marketing and SEO?
So yeah, well, I want to just ask you a few questions on your point now, and then I will come back to that.
No problem.
When you say Tyson and Gubeni and Farrell Farida, are they sort of, so now I might be exposing my own ignorance, but are they, what type of content creators are they?
So let me start with Farida or Farrell, how she's known on social media. So she takes, she's one of those skit artists.
I think I
I'm
actually
often
do know her now.
taking shots at your ShopRite checkers clerks, kind of how very, very over the top they can be. And that's kind of been the essence of a content, of just kind of showing a mirror back of what the everyday South African experiences within the everyday retail store and the kind of service that we're getting.
Okay.
So pretty much one of the terms that she coined, and it's quite an old term that she used to coin, is a play on the Savannah brand and saying that Siyavana, which is Zulu for we get along or we get each other.
Uh,
So long or the short, Savannah used that term as part of a term that they used as part of a commercial that they did. Then Farrah put up a hand and saying, yo, but that's my term. I popularized the term. So to avoid a lawsuit, they just simply said, okay, cool, then Pharaoh, let's just throw you into the campaign and have you use the in one of our ads to forego the route of you suing us for it. Then
okay.
the other one is Tyson. Tyson is also so Tyson, interestingly enough, one is a sketch artist, but more than anything is is a comedian. So his biggest, his claim to fame has been putting together content around, think of the National Geographic approach to how they comment about the safari and the lions and the wild, and did that turning the focal lens on South African popular culture. So think of your Bunny Chows, think of your Gatsby's, think of anything that is popular culture in South Africa, and painted and kind of presented that as a National Geographic kind of documentary around, look at the locals, how they gather together to agree on what Gatsby to buy, what Kota to buy, and it's popular culture. This is the origins of the word Gatsby, not popular, not synonymous with the Gatsby person themselves, but rather as, so it presents quite a nice comical approach to some of the things we take, I don't say take for granted, but we don't necessarily look at as an outsider looking in, just in terms of the comical nature of some of the things we do. And that's kind of what's his claim to fame. Chicken Licken did a whole campaign with him of doing the exact same kind of, we want to take what you're doing as a content creator and curate it as if it's something that is brand driven. But yeah, I mean, look,
Yeah.
I find that lazy. I honestly find it a bit lazy. So
Mm.
that's what's been happening. They're taking what people are doing organically in themselves, kudos to the content creators themselves in terms of what they've done to get their names out there. But as an advertiser marketer, I'm like, I find that a little bit lazy. That is
Yeah,
my take.
yeah, and I mean, I tend to agree with you. There is a certain innovation in it, in that they had to think outside of the normal. Not to, no, I'm not saying they've actually thought out of the box here because they kind of didn't, but they had to think out of the normal. COVID made them rethink kind of the methodology they would have normally chosen. Sorry, I'm not
Correct.
articulating myself very well, but
No, you got it. You got it. Yeah.
yeah, and I think yeah, kudos, as you say, kudos to the content creators for now stepping up a bit. One thing I will say is, the Kiffness when he made that song "Mefro," Leicester may know,
Exactly.
he used his lounge as Mefro well, I almost said Mefro Kombes, Mefro class, and I love the way he's used his lounge, and he's put a little desk for Mefro desk. And he's told his Mondelung, and you can see it's a living room, but you just love it. I mean, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that music video. So, in the world of like digital media and search engines, so actually, I'm more of a performance guy, and my partner's an organic guy.
All right, cool.
And we have another partner that is a programmer. So you build sites and apps, and then we sort of make sure they rank on search, and we drive traffic as well. So we make a good team. What's actually happening with us is we're getting a little bit too busy. So
Yeah.
everyone everyone needs sites and apps, and they need it now, and they want it before they, because a lot of people are they coming up with this is a great thing about South Africans, is that when there's a problem, they make a plan. And people are selling jam, and they're selling sauces, and they're selling pieces of clothing like that has nothing to do with their other jobs.
Yeah.
But they found an entrepreneur in themselves that they never knew existed. And they need a
Mm,
website, and they
mm,
need
mm.
it hooked up to Shopify or WooCommerce, and they need a payment gateway. And that's all the stuff we can do. So yeah, I've left my job at the agency, and Juice Ready is now the business that I'm operating. So it's exciting.
Nice.
Yeah, it's exciting times for me personally, but like very challenging and a bit scary. But I'm keen for the challenge, and I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna take the bull by the horns.
I
And
think the
that's
one thing that I'll give you a heads up on is
yeah,
be agile.
yeah.
This industry requires agility, so be agile.
Absolutely. No, we always have been. I mean, that is where we are a bit of a market disruptor. So,
Awesome.
some people might watching this, but I do sometimes reiterate this. Like Juice Ready, they think it's a podcast. Juice Ready is an agency, and because we do consumer psychology,
Yeah.
when we drive traffic, it helps me to talk on the podcast about culture, media, law, philosophy, psychology,
Dope.
economics. Keep going. I mean, I try to get as many people on as I can, and the more I learn about
Mm.
South African culture, the better positioned I am to create performance media builds and drive traffic, because I know what people are looking for when they want something. And if you take a subject like gender-based violence, people might think that's got nothing to do with an agency. Well, it actually informs a lot of my decision making when I actually sell products to people. So if you're selling medical aid, and you're selling it to someone in an area that's rife with gender-based violence,
Yeah.
it actually informs their decision that they make before they buy something. So
Of course.
we don't only do user experience, we also do the culture behind the click.
Mm,
And the
mm, mm.
podcast, so in a way, being an agency disruptor also means I need to do things differently. And a lot of times people say to me, well, isn't the podcast going to get you into trouble? Yeah, it might.
Yeah.
I might say something stupid, but um, you know, that's part of the game. And we also come in at rates that we can do the same work for. We can build you like a 50,000 rand site for like 25,000
Mm,
rand.
mm, mm.
So yeah, our rates are less. We don't make as big margins. There's not a fat cat bureaucracy at the top of our agency that swallows up your money. But yeah, that's where we sit at the moment, and I want to have as many people on the podcast as possible that have an understanding of these type of things, culture, media, law, economics, all
Yeah,
that stuff, and ask them questions. So really, I'm not going to get into trouble. I'm just going to be asking questions. If I do say my opinion, it'll usually be in a podcast like this, where it's about media, where I actually do sit in a position where I have knowledge of it. So we do need to do more media podcasts. So thank you for coming on today, T. And as you can see, this is the first
agree.
podcast where I'm wearing a shirt, and I'm wearing it just for you. Um,
I really appreciate that, bro. I really appreciate that.
So, so we got a guy. One of T's friends' name is Rich, and he's gonna come on next week. Probably was gonna join us today, but I think he's a bit late. So we're gonna chat about a few topics in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah,
And it's all to do with marketing, media, branding. Some of these topics are a bit difficult, like why do we see Woolies ripping off brands? How do brands have to be careful about Twitter relations when they do their media strategies, and they have to think about backlash before they put strategies out there. And then we've got one for ABSA, Africanacity. So we've got a couple. I mean, there's a few more as well after that, but we'll do them sort of week by week. Every 2 weeks, we'll have you on, and we'll have Rich on when we can. And you just muted yourself, by the way, so there's that to think about.
just a quick commercial break.
And yeah, so we'll have those. We've got a lot of topics coming up. I While T is on his commercial break, I'll quickly do my own little plug and just say that Juice Ready, the site, is launching on the 1st of November. Stick around. You're gonna want to see this. We're gonna get the social channels ready. We're gonna get the blogs ready. We're gonna get all the content up and running, and 1st of November we'll launch hard. So T, let's talk about which one do you want to do today. You're still on mute, by the way. Do you want to do ABSA, Africanacity?
Yeah, let's talk about that. I mean, like I said, I really like the discussion points you shared. And I think the biggest part for me is just what excited me the most is the commentary that I think we can tap into that. And I think the biggest thing for me is also that, like, once again, going back to this idea of the laziness of the industry, that it keeps on getting into the same kind of similar tropes in terms of how it goes about doing what it does. Like, for instance, the Africanacity campaign, from its inception, sounded like an amazing idea. It looked good. It sounded good. It seemed as if it is going to be phenomenal, seeing an amazing rebrand coming out from ABSA, now competing, punching above its weight, going dead on to say we want to go head on against FNB and all the other banking brands that have taken rebrands, and let's see what that does. But then to see them come back to what looks like a absolute vodka campaign reimagined as a banking ad was really disappointing, to be honest with you. I had my expectations to say that here's a chance for ABSA to say, we know our African consumer, we know how they manage money, how they work, how they treat it, what kind of service they expect. But rather all we got was an elaborate exercise of going very much into the normal tropes of what an advertiser would do. Young, dynamic creatives showcasing their very creative entrepreneurial side and their creative side, and adding a nice little plug at the end around how it ties into banking, which something that I'm starting to be a big champion of is not every lost African consumer is an entrepreneur. It's a handful of us. I mean, Daniel, let's ask the question. How many of your peers are entrepreneurs versus those that are working and pushing 9 to 5s? The idea of entrepreneurship is nice as a concept, but the hard reality is that the vast majority of our South African consumers are pushing and chasing 9 to 5 jobs, not entrepreneurship.
I can give you
So
a percentage.
go for it. What is the
I,
percentage?
it's about sort of between 8 and 12. Let's settle on 10%. Yeah.
Fine. I mean, even call it 10% of the market is entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
It's, in my opinion, not enough of a sizable market of people that are actively in that space. And even if you are talking about saying, hey, Standard Bank, hey, FNB, hey, Capitec, hey, ABSA, we know that South Africans aspire to become entrepreneurs. The vast majority of us are not looking for a place. We're not starved of places to save money. We're starved of banks that say we understand the needs of entrepreneur and we've curated a selection of our products to speak to that. I mean, as far as I'm aware, the only bank that has actually aggressively said, actually, we need product offerings that speak to that has been Standard Bank. They've introduced a somewhat of a short-term fixed account where they allow you to get into your overdraft up until you get to your next paycheck, whereas the vast majority of these brands are still offering the very same products and services. So for ABSA,
Sorry, what
yeah.
just I just have to cut you off there quickly and ask what's the difference between the Standard Bank overdraft and the one that you could get from FNB or ABSA? Because I have an FNB account and I have a Standard Bank account, and I don't have an overdraft on my Standard Bank because I don't need one. But so what's the difference there?
So this is the key difference for what Standard Bank is offering versus the conventional business account. Because I
Okay.
think all of us understand the concept of a business account with any of the banks. And then they've got this new product called MyMoBiz. And what MyMoBiz is one part to reduce rates. Think of, if I can, let me simplify to say this. It's a Capitec bank account for banks, for businesses. That is what Standard Bank has as part of that
Okay.
My account. Low fees, unnecessary, no need to have a 24-hour bank because you're a small business. No need to get inexplicably high charges for transacting online. No necessarily inexplicable expenses for transacting on the account. And that's what that MyMoBiz account pretty much is. So that for me is how a bank says, we've looked at who we want to speak to, and we're providing them with an assortment of offerings and products that they can actually start utilizing within our services versus participating and rolling out a campaign. But yet when I walk into an ABSA branch, I'm not finding the products that allegedly they want this new campaign to appeal to me to come and engage with them.
Can
So
I?
yeah, sorry.
Sorry, I just wanted to make two quick points there on that. I bank with FNB for my. I have two accounts with FNB. I have an old personal account,
Yeah,
to which my car is attached, so there's some debt that needs to still be paid there. And then I have my
yeah,
business account with FNB, and in my business account with FNB, and this is why people listen to Juice Ready, because this is the type of stuff you're not going to get on News 24. In my business
correct.
account with FNB, there's like a there's a charge that goes off like a 57 rand, and then there's like an 85 rand, and
Uh,
the one says monthly account fee, and the one says monthly service fee, and then there's like another 12, and I'm not drawing money off my business account.
yeah,
I'm invoicing clients and I'm paying suppliers, and there's another like 72 rand 50 that also says random service hashtag service, and I don't know what these things are, so I might, it'll be a huge loss for me now to change from FNB to Standard, but it sounds pretty good. So there is
and
that. Sorry, and then I just wanted to also say that I would act my Standard Bank account that I use for my personal stuff, which used to get my salary going into it, but now that I'm on my sort of own, that's probably going to go away. That account would be a Nedbank. I walked into a Nedbank one day. I stood in the Nedbank because I wanted to change because something happened at FNB and I was sick of them. And this
yeah,
this is the big four banks are FNB, ABSA, Standard, and Nedbank. I think those are the big four. And then Capitec was sort of the disruptor bank that waived your fees. Um, and I walked into a Nedbank and I stood there for about between 10 and 15 minutes. No one helped me.
yeah,
I just this was about 5 years ago, and no one looked at me. I carried on waiting. No one sort of showed me where to go. This was the one in Pinelands. I'll shame them.
yeah.
And there we go. I left. And no one helped me, and no one told. I walked into the Standard Bank, and someone said, "How's it? What do you need?" Okay, cool. Sit there. And I got a bank at Standard Bank, and I've been with them ever since. So those are my two stories about I don't know, inadequacies or incompetencies or just rudeness of
I,
banks.
I'd, yeah, I would call it the inconsistency of the
Yeah.
brand versus the brand experience. And I think that's exactly maybe where the heart of my issues with this Africanacity campaign by ABSA really stems from, is that one part was lazy advertising. They took all the cues of this Afrofuturist and just slapped that onto a ABSA campaign. But importantly, to your point, D, is that what what got me into the bank is what I'm have as an expectation when I encounter that bank as an experience. So, for instance, you cannot be saying, for argument's sake, let's use FNB as example. We cannot be putting a lot of money and ammunition behind a FNB, how can we help campaign. I get to a store and I have to ask someone, can you help me? Can you help? That should
So,
not be the case.
so I do just, I
And
do,
I,
sorry, I do just want to make a point that we are talking about media strategy here and advertising. And I think
yes.
sometimes there's a disconnect between, maybe an agency does the strategy for a Nedbank or an FNB, and they can't control on the ground what happens in the bank because there might be inconsistency in that way. And in that way, I just want to put out a caveat that I'm not blaming the agency for that, where the media strategy is inconsistent to what's in the bank. However, that's a bank problem, so we'll tackle that separately. Okay, I just wanted to say that
Okay.
because I am
And
attacking FNB and Nedbank here on other things,
uh,
where yeah. But let's anyway. I'll let you go on now.
on that point, I disagree with you, D.
Okay,
I
okay,
disagree because I'll tell you why.
sure.
I cannot be, for arguments, let's use Rain as a very interesting example. So Rain Mobile are punting these amazing promises of unlimited data, unlimited data, unlimited data, unlimited data. I get onto takealot.com, I order my Rain SIM card, and then I want to activate. And they tell me, after I've gone through the schlep of ordering the SIM card to be delivered to me, I'm now ready to start get this unlimited data. And guess what I find? Rain coverage is not available in my area in Cape Town or Johannesburg. Down. So the question is, whose fault is that? In my opinion, personally, I say it's the advertising agency's fault, purely based on the following reason. The one thing that we need to be very clear about as what I call brand custodians is what the product can do versus what it can't do. A lot of the time, as agencies, I'll definitely take this one to the chin with you, D, that we like to exercise a lot of creative license in terms of how we present a set offering. But it also has to be based on a reason to believe. And that is the term that I now start using even when I get through briefs and campaign ideas, is that I ask the question that, yes, I can tell people that this car can drive them to the moon and back, but I also need a factual reason to believe that if a consumer buys this car, they will be able to themselves drive to the moon and back. The challenge that I have with separating the brand from the brand custodian is that the brand is the one that tells the brand custodian, yes, you can say that. No, you should not say that. If it's not doing that, the brand custodian should be, for their own safety, ask the question back to the customer. So, guys, we have developed this amazing campaign around creative entrepreneurs and how ABSA is the bank for them. Can you please provide us also with the reasons to believe that this is true? Should someone send us a DM, should respond to our post on Instagram about the video and say, oh, awesome, what products are they for me as an entrepreneur? As the agency that's managing their digital accounts, we should be able to provide you with those information. Versus in some instances, oh, here's the link to the ABSA website, go read it out. No, guys. The
I don't want
reason why
that.
we come up with campaigns and put them on social media is so that we can engage with whoever is on the other side. And
Okay.
if we're not equipping the people on the other side with the necessary information, what I call reasons to believe why this campaign is for the creative entrepreneur, we failed. Because then think about this, Dean. Amazing campaign. Here I am, I come into the social media page that Juice Ready manages, and I ask a simple question. So what products are there at F&B for me as an entrepreneur? And if the person on the other side simply says, oh, visit fnb.co.za and read up there, you've lost me. You've lost me. In terms of the conversion funnel, you've lost me, because my desire as a consumer is that wherever I engage with your product, whether it be TV, billboard, whatever that platform may be, there is a certain degree of engagement that I would expect back from that particular touch point. That if it's a billboard, yes, be clear about what's the offer and where can I get more information. Tick, done. But on social media, it's a dialogue. We always talk about what is that engagement rate on social media? What is the click-through rate? What is the what are the terms that we use in SEO? It's
Well,
click.
no, I think the one here is the one you're looking for here is community management. So
Yes,
do you
community
make people
management.
feel
Yes,
like part of a community on your Facebook page? And a big part of that is communicating with them. Quick, short
exactly,
communication. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And that for me is where I would want to put blame on both the brand as well as the agency that was
Mm.
working there. Guys, if people ask us, so what is new to Apps's repositioning, we should be able to provide them at least with answers around what are some of the products that they can explore.
Yeah.
And even I'm not saying that they must become the encyclopedias of those new products, but rather be able to give us enough content to want to then go to an Absa Bank and say, Absa Bank, I love the new campaign. I had a brief chat with your bot, and your bot told me that this is the new product for small businesses. Tell me more. That
Yeah.
is what I want as a full journey.
Sure. And hopefully it's not a bot. Hopefully it's a human being because
Yeah,
there are times where a bot just cannot answer your question. And I'm not against having a person tell me that I need to go to a web page to see the full offering. But what I do want is if they say, all right, so I mean, maybe I'm asking a bit much here, but you expect this type of shit from Vodacom and Telcom because you know the service is going to be bad. But for a bank,
correct.
I want the person on the other side of the social account to say, like, I mean, they don't have to be polite. They just have to say, well, there you are. That's what we offer. The reason it's good is this. And then there's another
Yeah,
thing that what you might be looking for your business is this. What you might be looking for your personal is this. And then check out this
yes,
page for more info. And I hope you, and if you
exactly.
don't find what you need, get in touch and email us.
Exactly.
And automatically what you'll find is if the person actually shows a bit of care and a little bit of love, not only to consumers but also to prospective clients, then your social engagement in that community is going to be much higher and much happier. So
One of the best places to be, DN, and I think you already alluded to it, is that give people a great experience of that community experience. Suddenly, the community self-manages itself. For
correct.
instance, for being able to answer questions in your state as brand, say, "Oh no, I spoke to Daniel. Daniel told me this. Follow it and let me know how it goes." And you're just observing there as the person managing that community, like, wow,
Yeah.
I give them so much richness of content that they're now starting to repurpose it amongst themselves to address their own queries and concerns without our involvement. And that for me is what the dream becomes, D. It's really
Yeah.
what the dream of what a great campaign from start to finish looks like.
Yeah.
That we've got an amazing above the line campaign that says this is our new positioning. This is how we want to express ourselves as a brand moving forward. Here are the reasons to believe in terms of what's new and why to believe that we have changed. Then the third part to it, when I engage with you on, let's say, digital as a platform, there is someone on the other side to ensure that there is enough authentic engagement or enough richness of content to make me want to get into store to really get my answer to what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
So,
And if it's a copy and paste, at least put a little bit of personalized into it. It goes a long way. And you know what? I'll tell you an example in my own life at the moment is
uh,
I had a person phone me and I haven't really started my media strategy. As I said in my plug, we're going to go all out on the 1st of November, but I get clients from word of mouth. People,
uh,
if I have a retainer of 12 hours and I only use 10, then I don't bill for all 12. I bill for 10. People phone me and they say, John said you're an honest guy. Can you do my media as well? And
imagine.
I'm like, it goes a long way, just personalizing and customizing and, having a personalized touch. But that brings me back to ABSA and I wanted to ask you, so do you sort of feel like, okay, entrepreneurs, I mean, I've put a figure of 10% on it, but in Africa, they're going for a South African market, of which I am African, and I want to talk about that a bit later. Am I included in this Africanacity thing? I think I am. These are the type of questions that might get me into trouble, but I'm just honest and I speak from the heart. Entrepreneurs, have they overlooked it slightly? So you're saying Africanacity as a campaign You were a bit disappointed in those ways, and you've explained that. But is there I mean, I get the feeling that I could. Do you think it's a hit and miss campaign? I'm not an entrepreneur. I work for a company, and I'm just using an example. But say now a person isn't an entrepreneur, they work for a
Yeah.
company, but they like the theme, therefore they go and get a new check account at Absa. Does it work like that, or is it a hit and miss thing?
It's a hit or miss, King. It's a hit or miss.
Okay.
And I think it really comes down to that idea of how much time we spend understanding consumer insights and consumer
Yeah.
behavior. That I truly believe, I'm a big believer that the most powerful campaigns are the ones that are founded on a solid insight or a human truth. Any campaign, any offering that is built off a human truth is guaranteed to hit the mark every time.
Yeah.
I'll give a perfect example. I'll use a very simple, very easy to understand example. So for instance, Coca-Cola in its inception is a tonic, is a remedy for your gut. From its inception, it was intended for medicinal purposes. That's where Coca-Cola's origins were, to be a remedy for anyone feeling like, hey, my tummy feels a little bit unsettled. I've got a bit of gas. Let me just clear it up. Let me just deal with it. That is where Coke began as a brand. And then in time, it evolved to what we know today as Coke equals happiness. Now, what is the human truth? The human truth there is that, guys, everyone believes that any good meal deserves something good to wash it down with. That is a human truth. Do you agree?
I agree. Well,
Hence,
mostly junk food meals, but we'll leave it as that.
okay, no, yeah, I wouldn't go
Burger
into
and
semantics.
chips.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
Any good meal deserves something good to wash it down with.
Yeah.
That's honestly, guys, the human truth behind everything that Coca-Cola has ever done.
Oh, I see what you're. Sorry, T. I see what you're saying. I thought a Coke to wash it down with, but yes, if you have a steak and vegetables, it's really nice to have a red wine. So you're
To wash it
including
down with, yeah.
everything. Okay,
Yeah, I'm just talking about like a human truth. The human truth is
sure.
something that's applicable regardless of category, regardless of brand, is that any good meal deserves equally a good drink to wash it down with.
Got you.
Now, where Coca-Cola defined its particular space is exactly to your point. Junk food, snacking, everything that we love to have on the go. That's the space that they have occupied. And all they've simply said to guys, if you're enjoying these good hearty snacks, have yourself a hearty Coca-Cola to wash it down with. And that has been the premise of everything that they do, regardless of how they do it. It always works, regardless of whether they call it Coke happiness, whether they call share a Coke, it's all steps on this one fundamental hidden truth that for every good meal deserves a Coke.
I think the listeners are going to look in your client list and see if Coca-Cola's there.
Unfortunately, not yet. But the heart of it is exactly what I'm talking about the heart of the human truth. The human truth is that every good meal deserves equally a good drink to wash it down with.
Yeah, and it's the truth. Yeah.
Literally, regardless of how Coke has repackaged the same message and premise, that's exactly what they've been doing even up until this point. Whether it's a Coke Zero, Coke sugar-free, Coke less sugar, it's the same premise. Now, coming back to the principle around what does this then mean for a APSA, an African nationality, whether it's a hit or miss. In my mind, being as bold as saying we are developing a new campaign idea around Africanacity and what it means and why our bank is best fit to service that Africanacity, I would like to understand, what was the insight behind Africanacity? To your point, are white South Africans feeling like they are not African? So hence we're saying Africanacity as a hook to reel them back into the brand? Or are we saying potentially Africanacity is something that our Black consumers do not identify APSA with, and hence we're saying Africanacity is the expression to reel them in?
Okay.
However,
Sorry, first finish and then I'll play devil's advocate. Sorry, finish your point.
cool. However, but then what is that underpinning behavior insight behind whether it be the white, Black, Indian, colored, white, South African consumer that you want them to identify Africanacity and engage with it on? And that's where that human truth insight comes into play. For instance, I'll give you an example. With most everyday, ordinary Black South Africans, the concept of saving is something we mostly associate with stokvels and our grandmother's behavior. Stokvels is an unintended, unofficial debit order that we plan for as an ordinary South African that I'm part of a stokvel group. So I know that every month I need to set aside $200 towards my stokvel while I deal with the rest, knowing that after 12 months or whatever the case may be, I can get that money back. So suddenly imagine Africanacity, a stokvel account with the highest interest rate for minimum groups of 5 people opening up an account with ABSA. That is Africanacity. The human truth is South Africans are members of stokvels. We are offering a product for stokvels and offering them a ridiculous interest rate for opening up one, new accounts with us, but two, also having a shared account offering that they can all contribute towards. That for me is talking Africanacity and bringing it to life in a way that will reel me in. Understanding, for argument's sake, let's use another example that Daniel is pushing a 9-to-5, as well wants to be an aspiring entrepreneur. Can we not offer him a savings product that gets him the necessary credit score to be able to apply for business financing? That for me is how we then talk about how we're taking a behavior that we know and applying it to a product and packaging it as an offer, as a campaign offering for market. That for me is what I find determines whether a campaign is a hit or a miss, is that what is the human truth that has informed that campaign idea? Then the second part to it, are we also introducing products that will give a Daniel, a Tshiamo, every last reason to believe why he is who we're trying to speak to with Africanacity as a campaign? Yes or no? And the vast majority, as I was alluding to earlier, is lazy marketing. All they just did was slap this Afrofuturist movement and trend in advertising and assuming that that is all that it takes to attract every last upwardly mobile South African young person as will identify and resonate with and suddenly leave an FNB, leave a Standard Bank, and leave a Capitec to sign up with ABSA. No, that is lazy.
Okay.
That is lazy, in my opinion.
I agree with you. I agree with you. From my perspective, when I looked at it, and my skin is white, I'm also going to think of it from brown, Indian, for all South Africans.
Yeah.
But what I'll play devil's advocate with you on is this. Sorry, let me just finish my point. From my perspective, I saw Africanacity, and I'm sure ABSA won't be very happy with you right now because they must have spent millions on this, and I mean just the media spend was millions. But I never really identified with that campaign. And in the back of my mind, I thought, is it because I'm not Black African? I'm a white African. And then therefore I forgot about it. But what you're saying here, if they had given me a truth, the products to back it up, that would have come afterwards, But if they had given me a human truth that I could identify with, and in that way, maybe my entrepreneurial spirit, maybe if they had appealed to that. Then I might have looked at it a bit closer, but that didn't happen. But I want to just I want to read you. So their definition. I'm just doing a bit of research on my mobile, and I saw that Africanacity's definition, and they've got this on the flyer: the distinctly African ability to always find ways to get things done. So now, to play devil's advocate, in the beginning of this podcast, I said to you, South Africans, in a time of crisis, they make a way for themselves. So in a way, I'm seeing here, from a personal perspective, the campaign was a bit disappointing and it didn't appeal to me in a way that ABSA might have hoped. But I don't want to play identity politics. I think they meant it for all South Africans. But where did they go wrong on the human truth if actually they do have a very good breakdown of Africanacity and its actual definition? Because it is true, South Africans do make a way, and I think they've proven that throughout history. So where did they go wrong where did they go wrong with the human truth, and what happened there?
Interpretation of that idea.
Okay, yes. Okay.
Of that idea. To your point, Daniel, earlier, that when you saw the ad, nothing about it said, this is for me.
Okay, but now, so I agree with that. But
the truth is right.
Okay.
The human truth is right. The interpretation of it in terms of how it was expressed, that's where they lost the mark.
Got you.
And hence, I think that all they just did was rely on Afrofuturist as how we speak to the inside that South Africans or Africans as a whole have got this innate inclination when the chips are down to get things done. That did not come through. Watch that ad again after this podcast and tell me, where do you see the chips are down and these guys are doing whatever they need to do to get things done? Because if I can remember top of mind, I saw Instagram influencers, I saw fashion designers, I saw artists, but I did not see none of that tension about the chips are down, I need to get things done.
Right. Yeah.
So hence, we're just alluding to the point that once we've got a solid insight, which to your point, D, they do have, the inside is true. The inside is 100% correct. But then expressing it and presenting it in a manner that lands the point that this is who we're speaking to, that's where the campaign fell. Yeah. That's where it campaign, unfortunately, did not land and hit. I mean, in my opinion, Daniel, if all they had to do was tell the story of how potentially, let me also play pro their campaign. Just narrating the story of how an Instagram one of the Instagram influencers that they worked with was quarter to hitting rock bottom, and the chips were down. And one conversation with a ABSA consultant sparked the idea of, hey, you seem like someone who's very fashionable. And then suddenly they start creating content that gets them money as an Instagram follower. That is, when the chips are down, I got an idea. ABSA played a role of saying, have you tried this? They sparked that Africanacity in me to come up with ways of turning my love for fashion into something that generates an income. Suddenly there's a reason why I need to bank with ABSA. I would have got it. Okay. I would have got it. Here is a student, the cards are down, they need to pay for student fees, go to an ABSA branch and they're telling them, can I get a loan? They say, look, don't take out a loan. You seem like someone who's very fashion forward. Maybe that could be your Africanacity. And that's when the sparks start going. Maybe I can share outfit ideas. Maybe I can share my outfits, tell them where I bought it. And that's how they Africanacity shows how they got things done. Yeah. I would have got that as a message. But that, unfortunately, like I say, does not come through on the ad. It's just neon lights, Afrofuturism visuals, all these creative people, all these innovators, but none of that around that tension that you talk to from their website does not come through.
Sure. And
that I would have repackaged there. Yeah. You saying go for a D?
No, I was actually going to ask you, how would you slightly tweak what they had done in order to really bring out that human truth? And I think that's a good point, what you've made. I would just add, and I'm not in the TV advertising game, but I'm open to offerings from the industry. What should have happened is in the ad, the person sort of, they see that their rent's due, and then as the landlord's about to knock, they find a way to monetize a part of their platform on Instagram, and the money comes into the bank like 3 seconds before the landlord or landlady's about to knock on the door, and they send it through with an instant payment. And before the landlord knocks, they get the payment and they walk away. That would have really showed me the tension and the South African making a plan. Yeah.
Yeah, even that for me is something that's true to who we are South Africans, and I think for me that's what our desire to see more of, especially when it comes to the advertising within this country, is that I would have loved to see a lot more of those human truths. I mean, one brand, I'll give you an example, just speaking about this idea of a brand that really hit the mark, in my opinion, and really got it right. When you have time, go check out the One Life advert called "Change is Inevitable, but Growth." Change is inevitable, but growth. That's a choice. Just check out what One Life Insurance did with that ad, and tell me how that is not a beautiful depiction of a South African story that just evokes enough of that heartstrings to say, shucks, I could actually see myself as that person. I can identify with that person, because just go check it out without giving it away. That, in my opinion, would have been an example of how I would have conveyed and directionally taken the ABSA campaign to really make it about those real authentic stories, those everyday stories around rent is due, I need to pay my student fees off, I've got a car that I need to start paying off. That for me is those real stories that I wished would have been the lens that they used to tell us what it means to be, what is that Africanacity expressed, but importantly, what is the product offering that we are offering you as ABSA to enable you to continue to be that very same African ethnicity guy that we want you to be.
Yeah. Well, no, I'll check it out, and I think One Life. If maybe what we can do is have another discussion after on another chat about One Life and some other brands that are really just hitting the mark. And I do want to chat to you, about brands that sort of push the margins just as far as they can. Think Nando's, think Durex, and they get away with it because they're known as sort of in the industry, they're known as brands that are able to push the limits. So we'll have another chat about that, and we can bring One Life into that. Yeah, but thank you for your perspectives today. And I think just before we wrap up, because I think that's a very interesting chat, and I'm very interesting. Even though I'm in digital media, we all play in the same game. We all play in the same game, and it all comes down to branding, and it comes down to reputation, and it comes down to confidence, consumer confidence. So yeah,
Very true. Very true.
before we wrap up, yeah, go
let me
for
ask
it.
a question back to you before we go.
Yeah, yeah.
Name the last ad or campaign that you came across that really said, wow, I get it, and I like this. Just before we go, I want to hear from your thoughts. What is that one ad or campaign that you came across and said, like, shucks, that really hit the mark for me? What was that?
You know, I want to say. My brain's gone blank, but I've got two examples of, I've got Monday.com in my head because it's been drilled there. Monday.com. And I'm actually going to pay for YouTube from now on, I'm going to pay the 94 Rand a month, whatever it is. I used to have a YouTube account and I stopped paying it because it was a waste of 94 Rand a month. And I wasn't I used YouTube Music for a few weeks, but then I went back. iTunes is just as good. And I mean, Spotify and all that. But so Monday.com, just go to Monday.com. It's in my head. And that's an example of an annoying ad, which even when I needed a marketing automation platform the other day, I didn't choose Monday.com because it annoyed me so much. And my client's using Engage Bay or something else. And but so that's the negative, but there's a positive as well. So on those BMW ads where it says sheer driving pleasure and it just makes those three sounds, cling cling. I can't remember exactly what the sounds are. That is such a that's a positive one. Like it reinforces the BMW brand. Even though I'm a Merc person and I'm always gonna drive a Merc, I think to myself, BMW's done so well with that. They haven't won me over as a consumer, but I do like BMWs too. But yeah, I'm still Merc, but they haven't won me over as a consumer or VW. I mean, I have a VW at the moment. My next car is going to be a Merc, not a Beamer, but I think that's a great ad. Sorry, my mind has gone blank in terms of an ad that really captured me. Can I throw the question back at you? What's the last, I mean, besides for the One Life, what's the ad that last sort of really you related to? And I assume you're talking like more than 30 seconds. I'm not talking about a YouTube ad, and I don't watch a lot of TV.
Yeah, I mean, look, on my side, I kept the question as open-ended just to get a sense of what spoken to you versus what hasn't spoken to you.
Yeah.
And I think to your point, the one trope of being a person in advertising and marketing is when exactly someone throws a question back to you. What is the last ad that excited you? And I always find it so funny because for people that are in the industry, you'd assume that we have like at least top 5 easily to pull.
Yeah.
But it's actually quite a difficult and tricky one because I think the lens that we always use as people involved in the industry is we think about the technicalities, we think about the behind the scenes thinking versus just consuming it as. But maybe to that point, the one ad that I must admit has really struck a nerve for me as of late is, ironically enough, okay.
Take your time.
No, there's actually 3, and I'm just kind of weighing up in my mind which of the 3 really has spoke volumes to me about.
You can say all 3 as well.
Cool. The first ad that really just has really won me over, purely because of just the simplicity of it as an offering, one part is funny enough the rain ad.
Mm.
I really like I say, just the idea of how they've simplified the offering of no contracts. They've really made it very simple to say, this is what we are offering you. Unlimited data, flat rate. Boom. Amazing. Amazing. No funny business, no gags. The second one, which is so weird, but it's actually quite crazy because I actually find it so cheesy, but it actually stuck, is actually Pudo. Have you seen the Pudo ad?
No, I haven't.
I
But I'll
think it's a
think.
Pudo. Let
Uh,
me just confirm the name. Is it Pudo? Pick up ad. I'll tell you now. It's basically like a drop. It's like these vaults that you can drop off and send anything anywhere in the world without even, like, literally all it is. It's like a drop off box. You fill out the delivery address, put it inside. What's his boy's name? Wait, let me find the comedian's name. I'll tell you. I'll tell you the guy's name. Hold on. Just give me a few minutes. Oh, sorry, a few seconds. Yes, it's Pudo. It's the one. It's advert with I forgot this comedian guy's name.
Skulk Poseidon?
Yes, Scalp was 80 note.
I might have seen it.
Yeah, it's silly, it's stupid, but it works.
Okay,
It's
I'll check it
pick
out.
up, a drop off. Pudo, like search for the following: Pudo Pisang TVC. Those are, I think, yeah, is the one that I just love the simplicity of unlimited data, explore data, unlimited data. You can do whatever you want data with no contract. I just love the simplicity of that message. The second one is the Pudo Pisang TVC. I find it so cheesy, so corny, but effective because all they're teaching you is a behavior. Pick up, drop off. Pick up, drop off. Pick up, drop. It's as simple as that. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant advertising. The other one that really I think I'm starting to love, purely because of the education job is doing, is actually the Uber Eats. I absolutely love the Uber Eats advert.
Can I guess? It's where
Um,
the Gogo sits on the couch and she goes, just have something to eat.
yes, it's brilliant. I mean, think about Daniel. It's the smart advertising behind that ad is just phenomenal, phenomenal, phenomenal. I mean, they have one part saying ordering food on Uber Eats. It's simple. I mean, they what they've done is this. Let me say this: where Mr. Delivery, in terms of their advertising, is more focused around an assortment, an assortment, an assortment, an assortment delivered to your doorstep. Mr. Uber Eats is teaching a behavior, and the behavior is order it, it's there. Beautiful, smart advertising, and the fact that you're
Okay.
using an old lady to actually to be the protagonist, it's kind of showing that it's so simple that even a grandmother, a granny, can order food on Uber Eats, and I'm like, genius, genius. So yeah, those are the three ads. It's Rain, Pudo, as well as the Uber Eats ad with the Grandma Gogo. I'm like, those are smart, genius.
Do you know why I use Uber Eats over Mr. Delivery?
Why do
Because
you use Uber Eats?
it's about between 5 and 10 rand more. Um, I tried. There's two. I'm a bit of a I'm a tricky customer. If you can make me happy, I'll be a customer for life. I'm an asshole though, so if so, I try I try to change my credit card on the Mr. D app, and I struggle.
Yeah,
So the user experience is you have
it's
to.
a mission. It's a mission.
It was something about it. You have to do it. You just can't go and change your payment method. You have to either do it in the beginning or the end, and they just won't let you change it. So I just
Yeah,
deleted it and I never used it again. And Uber Eats has pictures. Mr. D doesn't have pictures.
yeah.
They might have changed it by now, but it was that simple for me.
No,
And I'll pay
I
the
promise
extra
you, they
seven
still
rand.
haven't. They still haven't changed it.
But I say this to like shopkeepers and stuff in my area. Like if I go into a shop and they're just
Yeah,
rude or they just don't want to do something, I'm quite a difficult customer. I actually really am. But if you treat me properly, I'll shop here for the rest of my life. And
so
that's the rest of my life is like whatever, 1 million rand for you. I don't know how much it comes to, depending on what service it is. But like the net bank that I walked into and I just didn't get service, I thought to myself,
yeah,
is this how it's going to be for the rest of my career? well, I want to put money in a bank account. Am I going to struggle with this crap that I'm dealing with in the first 2 minutes of this? It was a very negative association with the brand that I'll never forget. And I think that's where brands need to hit the mark absolutely running. And if they get it right, there are people like me who are difficult, but they'll be a customer for life if you just treat them right. And then there are people who are more easily swayed, but
Yeah.
absolutely, first impressions always last. And I think that's where brands need to be. I was gonna. Oh, by the way, and just when you asked me, so you asked me what my ad was, and I didn't have an answer, and I was gonna say, because I'm in digital media, I could just talk about,
Yeah.
I could just talk about like a conversion funnel and attribution or viewability, and just change the subject with search, and I'd get away with it. But thank you for your three ads. I'm gonna look at all of them: the Rain, the Pudo, and the Uber Eats. I actually know the Uber Eats one, but I'll look at the other two, and then hopefully we can chat about those next time.
Awesome.
The question I was going to ask you before we wrap up, do you think there's an element of monopoly? So with ABSA, with the banks in general, the big four banks, they've got a bit of a monopoly, and then Capitec is sort of the fifth one. Is there an element, and I'm seeing this a lot with Take a Lot, is there an element that their service suffers, and then therefore their marketing campaigns also suffer because they just know that they're dominant in the market? Whereas take a lot as an example. Take a lot. There's no number. There's an email. Their social's not well looked after. They just don't care anymore about their customers and their experience because they know they've got the market. They're a monopoly.
Yeah.
Is that sort of happening with the banks?
Um, Sorry, just repeat the question again, because I think I'm just getting caught up by the monopoly term itself.
Yeah, yeah. So is there an element? Is there an element that where there's a bit of I don't want to say incompetency, but is there an element of ABSA being part of the big four banks and being in a monopoly that they don't think that they need to disrupt the market anymore with really good advertising campaigns? Is that part of it, or am I sort of thinking too deeply about it?
Oh no, no, you hit it square. You hit it square in the head, D. I mean, the one clutch that any big brand will always fall prey to is getting too comfortable being the biggest dog in the yard, and that you forget that these smaller pups are starting to get strong and strong and starting to start punching above their weight. Perfect example, in my opinion, is what Capitec is today versus what they were a few years ago. That at some stage, Capitec was supposed to be the poor man's bank. Right now, Capitec, by virtue of positioning, offerings, and how they're innovating, they are now leading the charge. What people don't know, for example, D, Capitec was the very first bank to use fingerprint identification at the bank. Just imagine.
Yeah.
Just imagine. So I really see the likes of what ABSA, the likes of what Standard Bank are trying to do, and what Nedbank is trying to do. They're late to the party because they've gotten very comfortable in their laurels as a historic top four. But now that very same top four is being threatened in a very real serious way by a lot of these new up and coming banks in the form of the Capitec banks. And just maybe without me being too much of a prophet, I believe that within months to years from now, African Bank is going to start doing a lot of solid things in terms of innovation within speaking and producing and offering products that are designed for an African person looking for banking solutions. I think African Bank is going to really start doing a lot of good in years to come.
Cool. I'll take it as a prophecy, and we'll try to get them onto the client books. You do the advertising campaign, I do the digital media campaign.
Exactly. Let's make it happen, King.
T, it's really great to hear your perspective about advertising. I appreciate it. Thank you for coming on today. I look forward
No,
to
it's a pleasure, bro.
I look forward to chatting to you again.
Awesome.
Thanks,
Speak
bud.
soon. Have a good one.
You
Sure.
too.